We are waiting for news of a verdict in the trial of abortion doctor Kermit Gonsell, charged with murdering at least 4 babies who were born alive, according to the prosecution, and an adult patient in a clinic that prosecutors say looked like a medieval torture chamber. So yesterday in the Senate, Republican Mike Lee introduced a resolution calling on Congress and states to investigate and correct abusive, unsanitary, and illegal abortion practices taking place in this country. But Senate Democrats objected to the measure and substituted a different plan. We'll tell you what their plan was. Joining me now to debate it, Leslie Marshall, syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor, and Chris Plante, who is host of The Chris Plante Show. So Senator Mike Lee wants this resolution that will investigate and provide more oversight of these unsanitary and illegal abortion clinics. And then Dick Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut, with Barbara Boxer of California, comes out and says, actually, why don't we broaden it to require, the condemnation and prevention of all abusive, unsanitary, or illegal health care practices. All of them should be condemned and prevented, and the perpetrators should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So you tell me, Chris, whether these are, the Democrats are saying, oh, we want the abortion clinics inspected. We want every clinic inspected, and whether that gets this done.
I guess it speaks to just how utterly dysfunctional this entire city is that you can't get Democrats to agree that Dr. Gonsell is bad, that these little houses of horrors are a bad thing. They can't, if they can't agree to this, what can they agree to? They want to water it down. They want to turn it into a giant government program that would expand and expand and expand. The idea here is that Gonsell's clinic is a horror show, and if there are more clinics like this in the country, this guy introduced us to the phrase snipping the baby's spine, okay? And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about Dr. Gonsell. We're talking about horror shows and abortion. The Democrats are so in lockstep with the abortion industry that they're looking for a way to throw a bucket of cold water in this. We don't want to put the focus on Dr. Gonsell and clinics like this. We want to just sort of make it something else, make it go away. Let's pretend this isn't what it's about. I mean, I wonder if you asked him to condemn Charles Manson or this psychopath in Cleveland, whether they could agree with that. Ariel Castro might get the Hospitality Award of the year from the Democrats in Congress. I just can't believe that even this is an issue. You can't get this through the Senate. What can you get done
Leslie,
in Washington?
The reason Mike Lee and others on the Republican side thought this was necessary is because there's a reason that Gonsell Clinic didn't go inspected for 17 years. According to the grand jury report, they decided not to do it. The Pennsylvania Department of Health, under Republican Governor Tom Ridge, decided that inspections would be, quote, putting up a barrier to women seeking abortions. And so they decided to leave the clinics to do as they pleased, even though, as Gonsell proved, this is from the grand jury report, that meant both women and babies would pay. And Pennsylvania's Department of Health senior legal counsel insisted the department had no legal obligation to monitor abortion clinics. Another official from the Department of Health said, look, people die. And so some senators at the federal level said, maybe the feds need to get a little more involved here.
What I'm very confused about, and Megyn, my husband's a physician. He's a surgeon. He has private practice, works at surgery centers and hospitals, and there certainly are walkthroughs, and it's not just by OSHA, that come through and check for sanitary conditions, any abuses. There are certain departments in the hospital for that throughout this country, state by state. So I was confused at first when you have legislation proposed, and I find it amusing that Chris says that Democrats are pandering to the pro-choice network. This is pandering to the pro-lifers out there. To make legislation based on one man, who I, as a Democrat, and all Democrats agree, is a butcher and a murderer, is ridiculous. To say, look, we need to have every medical facility that is performing a procedure on another human being, those need to be, and are in the state's hands, need to be regulated. They need to be looked at. But, Chris, the problem is you guys over there don't like regulation. You guys over there don't want federal government control. You guys over there don't want to spend the money it's going to take to get this done.
Did I just say this?
Which is it?
I am not sure. It looks like Senator Lee wants action. He wants actual oversight. He wants investigations, and he wants to conduct hearings on how this happened and whether it's happening anyplace else. The Democratic counterpart, which is much more expansive and talks about all clinics, just says, resolve that it's the sense of the Senate that all incidents of abusive, unsanitary, or illegal healthcare practices should be condemned and prevented, and the perpetrators prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The way I read this is they don't necessarily want Congress to do much more than condemn unsanitary practices anywhere, as opposed to Mike Lee's resolution, which wants an action to oversee these clinics where babies getting born alive, according to the prosecutors in the Gonsell case, are being murdered by unscrupulous doctors. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, look, to turn this into an attack on me or on Republicans who don't want regulation is just another example of how dysfunctional, how crazy everything has gotten in politics in this country. And it's a very simple thing. You know, is Charles Manson a bad guy? Is Dr. Gosnell a horror show? And they want to stop and turn it into a political food fight. They want to disagree. If it's an opportunity to turn into another giant government program to inspect pizza kitchens, then they'll do that. It could hardly be more absurd or more outrageous. And it is because the Democrat Party is so invested in and it's a political issue for them. It's about the women's vote. They pretend they're standing up for women's rights. So babies are having their spines snipped by doctors all over the country, and horror shows in places where there's blood all over the walls, and they haven't been inspected in nearly 2 decades. So what? Let's turn it into a fight with the Republicans. I mean, this is how ridiculous and how outrageous everything has gotten.
I'll give you the last word, Leslie.
I think it's ridiculous, Chris, that you're naive. There's not blood spattered on walls of various clinics throughout this country that perhaps don't have funding or have unscrupulous medical personnel that don't call authorities when this is taking place. And it's not just at abortion clinics. And that's why I, as a Democrat, agree with the Democrats and say, let's look at every healthcare facility and make sure there are no abuses, there's no unsanitary condition. We don't have legislation based on one man's actions. We should make, in a preventative mode, that this isn't happening at any healthcare facility by anyone who has an MD after their name.
Was that important day before yesterday?
As we wait for
Sweetie, do you want to see my husband's malpractice bill?
All right, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Litigious society here.
No, we don't know you well enough. All right, thank you both so much.